Welcome. Oh, death. Oh, death. Won't you spare me over for another year? What is this that I can't see? Ice cold hands taking hold of me. Well, I am death, none can compel. I'll open the door to heaven or hell. I'll fix your legs so you can't walk, lock your jaw so you can't talk. I'll close your eyes so you can't see. The chill you feel, it comes from me. Oh, oh, death. Oh, oh, death. Won't you spare me over for another year? Won't you spare me over for another year? Oh, death, won't you spare me over for another year? Oh, death, how you treating me? You close my eyes so I can't see. You hurt my body, you make me cold. You run my life right out of my soul. The rich, the poor, the young, the old, all alike to me, you know. No wealth, no land, no silver, no gold. Nothing satisfies me but your soul. Oh, oh, death. Oh, oh, death. Won't you spare me over for another year? Won't you spare me over for another year? Won't you spare me over for another? Welcome, welcome, welcome. That was a traditional number, often heard by, sung by Ralph Stanley, the great Ralph Stanley. I first heard that song in maybe '91 or something like that. The rendition by Camper Van Beethoven, which I also recommend. Earlier this year, the Associated Press reported on the discovery of well-preserved remains of early humans at Tinshemet Cave in central Israel, dating to roughly 100,000 years, around the midpoint of the Paleolithic or the early Stone Age. The skeletons were discovered in pits and carefully arranged in a fetal position. One particularly well-preserved specimen was found with fingers interwoven, hands clasped behind the back. Objects found beside the remains may have been used during ceremonies to honor the dead and could shed light on the origins of human burial. The site, for instance, contained numerous basalt pebbles, animal remains, and more than 500 fragments of ochre, a reddish pigment made by heating rocks containing iron oxides such as hematite. Ochre use is thought to have become an established habitual practice across Africa, starting about 160,000 years ago, likely an expression of intensifying ritual activity in early Homo sapiens. Such ritual behavior may have even, in fact, factored into the expansion of early populations within and eventually beyond the African continent. There was a link between ochre use and the self-decoration of people throughout the Middle East and Africa, including on the body, face, hair, and the coloration of personal ornaments. Some pieces also show evidence of being scored with a sharp tool and even engraved with geometric patterns. Another factor we should note is the intentional selection of red over other more easily available pigments such as yellow or black. Multiple academic sources show that ancient people preferentially sourced and processed fine-grained raw materials with saturated blood red or bright red hues. In Europe, by contrast, evidence of intentional ritualized burials such as these is currently only traced to the very end of the Paleolithic period and only becomes more common in the Middle Stone Age or the Mesolithic period. The earliest European burial sites are found in Italy and Spain, such as the San Teodoro cave in Sicily. There again, red ochre plays a part. In this case, evidence suggests that there was at one point a continuous powdered layer covering not only the individual burials in this cave, but actually used to connect the graves to one another. In addition to the red ochre pigments, grave goods in Southern Europe included a wide range of ornaments and objects such as mollusk shells, animal bones, antlers, ivory pendants, and necklaces of teeth. The significance of such materia and their likely usage during prehistory, symbolic, ritualistic, artistic, or functional, is still unclear to the anthropologist mind. But the artist, the sorcerer, the intuitive may more freely extrapolate meaning. Red, the color of blood, of life, of lust, of raw emotion, and the arrangements of bone and antler, totemic representations perhaps of those animals feared, respected, and taken into oneself for sustenance. Sociologists recognize rituals as opportunities for community integration and cohesion through which we foster self in relation to the collective. Rituals focused on death are particularly crucial gateways in which we confront existential questions about mortality, continuity, and collective purpose. In the funeral, we find community through a transmutation of grief, fear, and perplexity. This next song was first recorded by Lefty Frizzell and popularized by the Bard in Black, Johnny Cash. 10 years ago, on a cold, dark night, someone was killed 'neath the town hall light. There were few at the scene, though they all agreed that the slayer who ran looked a lot like me. Now she walks these hills in a long black veil, visits my grave as the night winds wail. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. Now the scaffold was high and eternity near. She stood in the crowd, shed not a tear. But sometimes at night, when the cold wind blows, in a long black veil, she cries o'er my bones. She walks these hills in a long black veil, visits my grave when the night winds wail. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. The judge said, son, what is your alibi? If you were someplace else, then you won't have to die. I spoke not a word, though it meant my life. I'd been in the arms of my best friend's wife. Now she walks these hills in a long black veil, visits my grave when the night winds wail. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. Where were we? In AD 921, an ambassador from the Caliph of Baghdad to the Scandinavian Rus recorded the elaborate funeral of a celebrated chieftain of the latter group. The ambassador records that after a 10-day orgy of drinking and feasting and sexual promiscuity and abundance, the community immolated the deceased in his ship along with animal sacrifices, riches, food, and libations, and even a servant girl who supposedly volunteered to be burnt with him. And now, jumping ship for 7th century China, we find the aristocratic tombs of the early Tang dynasty, designed as afterlife residences for spirits of the deceased, modeled on the opulent homes they'd experienced in life. This comfortable post-mortem dwelling was invoked through representational depictions of beings and objects thought to come to life to suit the needs of the entombed spirit. Each early Tang tomb corresponded to geomantically propitious sites within the landscape, aligning the tomb with the forces of the cosmos. Vaulted ceilings in the burial chamber held astrological themes. Entrances were decorated with directional animals and zodiacal symbols, sculpted guardian figures, and protective divinities, as well as other auspicious theomorphic creatures. In the Ulia River Valley of northern Honduras, from roughly 700 BC to the 1400s AD, funerary rituals may have provided a means of binding together independent communities within a shared cosmology. During this time frame, burials were aligned to a prominent landscape feature, the Montaña de Santa Barbara, as well as positional orientations of the sun, such as sunrise and sunset at the summer and winter solstices. The latter edition of these solar alignments may evidence the spread of Mayan influence. The lower Ulia Valley was considered peripheral to their center of power, but around 500 AD, the Maya established a powerful city-state at Copan, which became a center for art, astronomy, and trade. Through mortuary ceremonies in which the living interacted with the dead, a tension between individualization and communal belonging helped to establish and strengthen social relations, community histories, and intercommunitarian ties within the Ulua Valley. The integration of burials into more extensive patterns of ritual action enabled social relations to be formed around care for the remains of the deceased and cyclical commemoration of the dead. The reproduction of practices points to a resilient sense of community expressed through layered memory created generationally, through interment, disinterment, and reinterment of both human bodies and meaningfully arrayed material culture, forming the afterlife cycles of the dead becoming honored ancestors. Here's one by the godfather of neofolk, Lee Hazelwood. In the waking hours of some not too distant morning, you'll come walking barefoot through this cowboy mine, selling yesterday's dreams wrapped in tomorrow's paper, whistling for a dog named Kindness that you'll never find. It's a cold, hard world, love, and these are cold, hard times. These are cold, hard times. These are cold, hard times. Standing in some narrow space, you'll hear your mother crying for the thoughts she had but never used, and now they're gone. Your daddy's still out back, he's a-selling and he's buying. There's nothing he can give you, 'cause he's never once been wrong. It's a cold, hard world, love, and these are cold, hard times. These are cold, hard times. These are cold, hard times. It's a cold, hard world, love, and these are cold, hard times. These are cold, hard times. I heard my brother died last week, or was it just a rumor? From an overdose of hate taken in his veins. I heard the preacher said God must have a sense of humor, 'cause when they put him in the grave, it never even rained. It's cold, hard world, love, and these are cold, hard times. These are cold, hard times. It's cold, hard world, love, and these are cold, hard times. These are cold, hard times. Moving along. By the later Middle Ages in Western Europe, the relationship between the living and the dead was mediated in large part by the Roman Catholic Church. The emergence of beliefs in purgatory meant that the destination of the soul and the length of time it took one's everlasting spirit to reach heaven or was determined in part by the intercessional prayers, petitions, and, to be blunt, bribes of one's community of survivors. The Reformation mounted a jarring challenge to these traditional belief structures and cultural practices in early modern Europe. Treatment of the sick and dying, not to mention death itself, the burial of corpses, and the mechanics of remembering and commemorating one's beloved dead were all suddenly up for negotiation by individuals and communities, Catholic and Protestant, across Europe. In any case, confrontation with the void upon one's deathbed was and remains a powerful crossroads of doctrines, habits, and doubts, crystallized into, as Willis and Tingle write, a messy and imperfect expression of individual identity. I'll pause here for a commercial break. You are attending to the Goetic broadcast system brought to you tonight by Ecstatic Agendas and our sponsor, Barbarous Tongues, a journal of arts and esoterica. Pick up your copy at tinyurl.com/barbarous tongues or the quite affordable PDF edition at tinyurl.com/barbarous-pdf. Funeral attendants enact a rite of passage that remembers and memorializes the deceased while at the same time acknowledging that the deceased person is now in a different realm, with religion often filling the spiritual dimensions of the transition. But even within this structured religious context, there is often room for personal or vernacular beliefs or practices to emerge. For instance, a somewhat common practice in some 19th century African American communities in the South, in the American South, was to lay broken pots over a grave to prevent the return of the deceased. And as this practice evolved, the pots were sometimes eschewed in favor of a broken clock or a broken watch set to the time of death. Ritual praxes surrounding death, burial, funeral observances, and commemorative remembrances of the deceased are perennially recurrent sites where the existential components of identity, belonging, time, and disillusion are interrogated again and again. The psychological perspective suggests that the modern funeral is a way for loved ones to process their loss and grief and to close one chapter of their own lives so that their existence can continue through this rupture. In America today, we avail ourselves of not only the modernist mausoleum or the polished marble headstone wherein or beneath which one's corpse is sealed off from the earth and protected from the natural forces of decomposition, but other options abound, such as cremation, a more sanitary version perhaps of the Viking immolation ceremony I spoke of previously. In recent years, so-called natural burial has become more popular. In this permutation of a traditional burial, the body of the deceased is interred in materials that will decompose, and time is not stymied by the use of formaldehyde or other embalming agents. One can now even choose options that speed up the process of decomposition, such as employing mycelial spores to grind one slowly to a hearty pumice. Such green burial options have become a secular way to accept one's ultimate oneness with the soil, with nature, and with the cosmos, dancing in a rhythmic oscillation of time, space, and becoming. And speaking of time, I don't want to keep us here much longer. There are tricks and treats to be had tonight for all of us. I will close tonight's session with a song that survives from the classical Mediterranean. Although fragments of much older musical pieces exist, the Song of Sekilos from roughly 100 AD is currently one of the earliest known examples of a complete musical composition from the ancient world. The song was found engraved on a stela from the ancient Greek town of Tralles in present-day Turkey. The artifact is thought to have been created by a man named Seikilos as an epitaph and memorial to his wife Euterpe. I have availed myself of an English translation of that text, and I sung along with the melody over the past few weeks, watching another user's YouTube video where they were playing the music to this song until I was satisfied. And I'll sing it now in a few repetitions. And in closing, I'll say, in honor of the minstrels, bards, and mad poets of all races and genders, of every clan and nation throughout time, I have added my own stanza to bring a touch of the contemporary to this old, old spell. As long as you live, shine, and let nothing grieve you beyond measure. For your life is short, and time will claim its toll. As long as you live, shine, and let nothing grieve you beyond measure. For your life is short, and time will claim its toll. The peasant feels the earth between her fingers. The farmer knows his flesh will feed the soil. From Boeotia to Appalachia, from Atlantis to the San Joaquin. As long as you live, shine, and let nothing grieve you beyond measure. For your life is short, and time will claim its toll. Thank you very much. God's bless us, everyone.